We very much live in a world of extremes. You either get people who get offended by the slightest little remark, the slightest little mistake, or you get people that will defend literally anything and everything, regardless of how egregious it may actually be. Today's story is of 11-bit studios. Now, for those of you who don't know who 11-bit studios are, just want to say a huge thank you to all of the supporters and patrons of this channel. By becoming a member or a patron, you help support the news that we bring and also allow me to do even more in the future. So huge shout out to all of you. Thank you. Anyways, enjoy the video. Bye. They're a very small Polish publisher slash developer. They are indie. They make phenomenal games, and while they do make a lot of money, they don't have a lot of people working for them. But the games that they do bring out tend to merge storytelling alongside gameplay elements in a very unique way. Like, not all of their games are necessarily my type of game, but every single game I've ever played from them is very unique. I was first introduced to this company with their first game, Frostpunk, and in Frostpunk already, I knew there was something special here. I ended up playing my literal first time playing it 18 hours that I just sat and I couldn't stop playing because the storyline was so phenomenal. The elements, the gameplay elements were so well thought out. And since then, they have released banger after banger, at least for the audiences that it caters to. That's another thing about this studio. They don't try to make games that will cater to everyone. They have a very specific niche that they want to target with a specific game, and that's the only niche that they make for. Their most recent game, however, is The Altars. Now, I have had the pleasure of playing The Altars, and I will tell you, it is a phenomenal game. The story is what makes this game, and don't let anyone fool you telling you that this is a survival game. Yes, there's survival. Yes, there's a lot of management and time management and resource management and all the rest. But it is, at its core, almost, you could say, a psychological drama, because that's what drives the game. And the game is phenomenal. If you haven't had a chance yet, you should absolutely check it out. But as you can imagine, with all things, when a game comes out, there will always be those who cry about it for some reason. And where will they cry? Well, the sort of capital of I'm offended by everything. Over on Bluesky, this thread emerged, and the thread started 8 days ago, where someone noticed, at least according to them, that AI has been used in this game. Fundamentally, though, there's no evidence that this was actually created with AI, but they still managed to claim that it was indeed AI. So Daniel Winter writes, well, that's disappointing. What the F is it with studios thinking AI is fine only for the icons? If they're not important, why have them at all? If they're important, then pay your artists. It should be mentioned that this was 8 days ago. There is no evidence. If you look at this icon, there is literally nothing in this icon that should tell you that this could have been generated using AI. It's just an icon. It fits with the theme and the style of the game, so it kind of makes sense that it would be there. Of course, since then, the calls and the calls to action have become even larger, with this user pointing out that there's more damning evidence in game even, but it's all background stuff that you have to go out of your way for. There's text scrolls where you can still see the AI prompt responses before it produces a bunch of science jargon. Wild that they've dodged disclosure, all things considered. The thread itself garnered 409 likes as well as 610 likes on Bluesky. That's sort of top tier for Bluesky membership. Ultimately, this led to The Altars, the studio, 11-bit studios, coming out and explaining themselves. We've seen a wide range of accusations regarding the use of AI-generated content in The Altars, and we feel it's important to clarify our approach and give you more context. They actually go on to explain that the only place they used AI was in this scene, this one particular scene, and they explain that this wasn't meant to actually make it into the game. They had used AI early on in the development cycle just to sort of populate the area and the screens with some text so that they could see what it would actually look like. And then they did a pause to replace all of that with actual works from the actual developers that work for the studio. And this particular one was ultimately missed. They further clarify that the in-game movies that you can watch was produced by a third party, and so they don't know whether that was actually used for with AI or if AI was actually involved in that. They then say that yes, in terms of translations, there were a number of translations in the movies because the movies were added right at the end of the game, just before shipping. They needed quick translations, so they decided to turn to AI, but their plan was always to work with their translation experts to ultimately translate all of that in a later patch. The problem is that while a lot of people, myself included, came out and said, hey, we have no problem with this, it's perfectly fine, you can imagine the people over at Bluesky, they did not accept this. I myself have received replies to some of my posts on this that is less than savory and definitely not worth showing here, from people who I would argue are not people that you should feel proud of, right? So one who responded to my direct message here, because I made another post, was Tirage. And Tirage is a moral warrior, right? Someone that fights for the good of all things, except when you actually look at Tirage's thing, and yes, I reported some of his posts because they're really bad, right? So Tirage says, okay, all you military vets out there, you have your training, likely have guns, and now have a damn good reason to take the shot. Take the effing shot and save us from this hell. Can someone with better aim please just end this already? They delete a lot of their tweets because obviously that might get them in trouble. I reported those two because, well, he's literally calling for the death of the sitting president of the United States of America. I feel like that shouldn't be allowed. As I said, some of the messages I can't show you, some of the replies I can't show you, but this individual is just one of many. And the problem with Bluesky is when you actually go into the comments on a lot of this stuff, it gets really, really nasty. One of the things that is super funny, though, whenever you do go through these Bluesky posts, is how quickly their own conversations start to get derailed. So this was a post against AI, and you have here Vinyl that says, I think there's a massive difference between not crediting a post and using the infinite plagiarism machine that stole all the data on the internet and burns down a forest while doing so. Because that's the problem here. And then you have Tifa responding saying, I mean, that prompt probably used something in the order of a few watt hours. We're talking about seconds or less of compute after all. All of the people downloading this image and leaving their computers on to type out a hallucinated response has a footprint orders of magnitude greater. It's not just using power for the prompt, it's shit out. The colossal amount of resources that it took to steal millions of words to learn is staggering. You're comparing a few hundred people on their computers versus the industrial scale LLMs work with. It's not comparable. And that's just how it is. Every single post that I've ever joined on Bluesky has this, where the conversation starts about one grievance that they have and very quickly derails into a bunch of other grievances that they have because everyone's a grievance warrior over on Bluesky. Look, guys, it's simple, it's easy, it's straightforward. AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. I don't think that 11-bit studios should have even acknowledged this with a post of their own, because fundamentally, none of this matters. It's AI. It's used by a studio with in-house training, because there's no evidence that they actually used their AI to learn or to train on other images and other people's work. They may have just used it to work on theirs and use their work in order to populate with more of the stuff that they would like to see in their game and on their assets. This is going to happen. If you want to fight against that, you're basically one of those people standing in front of the printing press all the way back when and saying, no, I will not allow this. Stop using the printing press. Scribes all the way. How did that work out? I can guarantee you there were people who didn't want to use the printing press because it was the devil's work or whatever. Right? But fundamentally, it still came out and it changed the world. Yes, a lot of scribes lost their jobs, but a lot of jobs have been created since, thanks to something like the printing press. And the same is going to be true for AI. In the short term, yes, a lot of people will lose their jobs, but in the long term, it will almost certainly create more jobs as more developers are now able to create more things using AI. It's impossible to predict where the technology will take us, because it would be like asking you to invent a new color. No one, no one 200 years ago would have been able to predict a mobile phone. It would have been impossible. If you go back 200 years and you say that we have this device that works on electricity that you can use to call someone literally anywhere in the world, they would look at you and think that you're talking of witchcraft, right? Like, how could you even begin to postulate such an event occurring? And yet, today, it's commonplace. We all have one. It literally exists in our pockets. So looking at AI and thinking, wow, just evil, I think is just incredibly short-sighted. Should AI be used to formulate and create entire games, including all of its art assets? No. But any game that does that will likely fail, because have you seen how shitty AI-generated stuff looks? Because AI fundamentally can't grasp what humans are, or human perception, and therefore it will never be able to create art that truly speaks to humans. That's just a reality, at least in my opinion. So yeah, I think this entire thing has been largely overblown. I don't think that people should be this hard up against AI, because I think ultimately you're missing the forest for the trees, or at least if we believe you, there will be no forest or trees left. So hopefully then you'll be able to see clearly what the hell is actually going on within this world. Anyways, let me know in the comment section down below how you feel about this entire thing. Hit the like if you liked it, if you didn't, and I'll see all of you in the next one. Peace.